Hi, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. I'm setting up the PSE Xpression for 2016 compound bow. Now I had a couple of problems when I started this video yesterday with the module on the bottom. The bow comes with a 75% module and a 65% module. The 65% module wouldn't fit. So I contacted PSE last night and they informed me they put a code in the system wrong. Anyway, they've redone the modules for the bow. It's just this is basically one of the first Xpressions made. Now I'm just going to show you how this module comes off. It's quite simple, and it's actually the reverse of a normal PSE module, so there's no need to use a bow press. There's two screws there and there. We just loosen off those. Each letter is 1/2 inch. This bow is adjustable from 26 to 31.5. So letter A is 31.5 and letter L is 26. So you've got to use a torque Allen key set, which is the one with the little stars on the front, which is, I don't know if you can see it, but anyway, it's got a little star on the front. So you just simply loosen it off. Now I'm 28.5, which will be the letter G. This bow comes set on letter F. So you just loosen off the two screws. I'm going to take off this module because this is different to previous modules on the PSE. Now to take the module out, you basically just spin it around. So you move it towards the letter L and it just hopefully slides out like so. Now this module, I'm just going to come up close to the camera because PSE has changed the module a lot. You see there's a little ridge here. This ridge is new on PSE. It still has a little pin here. So the ridge is new, the pin is old, and they have nice little letters here. There, and this number says 80720. Now this is for the obviously the Xpression cam, and the R means right-handed. The 65 has a 65 after it. So I'll just fit this back. One thing I love about PSE, it's really quick to adjust draw length. So if you've got a customer who comes in the shop and goes, look, I want to have a shot with your bow, or you've got a guy, you've got a 60-pound bow in stock. There's Allen keys, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little blue paint on them. That's like a Loctite thing, stop the screws coming loose. Now it is possible they will come loose. If you hear a rattling on your bow, basically that's the thing to check. They're pretty good, but some people do say they come loose. Last one's got blue on it again. So we just put that back in. I've set this up to the letter G. The draw stops on G. So on the bottom here, the little points on G there, and the draw stops also on G. Now I've got a set, I fitted, when choosing an arrow rest for this bow, there's a whole bunch to choose from. I was going to fit a Pro Blade from AAE on it, which would be red, but I didn't have a red, I only had black. Black would have looked okay, but I really like Spot Hog. They have micro adjustment. They have a series of blades. Now this is the Premier, which I've used since I was 12. They used to come with a Goldfinger launcher, which was really nice, and they've stopped making that, so now it's just the blade and the prongs, which look like the prongs for white carbon, which look like so. So it comes with two arms. Now I'm going to fit a sling to the bow. I've just chose the PSE in red, which this is called a stiffy sling because you can shape it. It's pretty cheap, around $10. So you can basically mold it to whatever size, and it's cheap. So we're just going to fit that. Goes like so. Now with this, I'm going to fit a quick disconnect to it to make my life a bit easier. Now, there's a whole bunch of disconnects on the market. So these are two bee stingers. One's 10% down, so it angles downwards. And one's just a standard quick disconnect. These are from Bee Stinger, ballpark $30, maybe $35. Cartel have a cheaper one. I think I'll just go for Bee Stinger because it's all black. 10 degrees down is pretty popular. Now I haven't used 10 degrees down, so maybe I'll fit a 10 degrees down one. Stefan Hansen, the world champion from Denmark, who shoots PSE. He shoots 10% down, and I don't expect there to be any difference, but I'll fit the 10% down. So the way this fits, new Allen key. Major advantage to the quick disconnect, you can leave your sling on the bow. So, looks like so. This goes on to the stabilizer. This is your quick disconnect, so that goes into there, like so. You grab the bow. And it just simply screws on like so. I'm going to grab my stabilizer. Now I'm using a Bee Stinger stabilizer, which is somewhere, yep. Now Bee Stinger on stabilizers, the thing I found about stabilizers, when you add lots of weight and through slow motion footage, when you see a stabilizer move, if it's soft, which means it's got flex, you'll see vibration in the stabilizer through slow motion footage. Now it doesn't affect how you shoot, it'll affect the vibration you feel after the shot. So on the Bee Stinger, I'll just put this up against a bench and I try and flex it, and there's no movement at all on it. So with Bee Stinger, I found these are really, really stiff compared to other stabilizers, basically the cheaper ones. I'm just going to grab a $40 stabilizer. This is an SF, and it's got a lot of, you can see my arm sort of flex. It's quite soft. Now with a recurve, that's fine. And even for compound shooting, that's fine. You're just going to feel a bit of vibration when the shot's taken. So we're going to fit the Bee Stinger. Now, not so much a issue with the shorter stabilizers. So we just basically fit this like that. And then when you go to fit this, it just goes in and just one turn, and that's then fitted to it like so. Then to take it off, it's basically half a turn and it just comes straight off. Really nice and simple. Now with we'll just leave that off. I fitted here down the bottom an Infotech V bar. Now with this bar, I'm going to fit dual stabilizers down the bottom, V-bars. A lot of people just shoot one, and I've been using one, but I've noticed a lot of the top shooters now are shooting two. Now my theory on this is this bow is completely symmetrical, so there's as much weight on one side as the other, and yes, you've got a side on this side, but this doesn't actually weigh that much. So my theory is I'm going to add the dual stabilizer down the bottom to try and create balance. So now, normally I would have fit bee stinger to it, but for this exercise I'm just going to fit 12-inch cartel triples. Now there's no real need for high quality. You can't bend these are too short to get any sort of flex width. Now I'm just going to screw on two lots of these. Once again, I could fit the quick disconnects, which I should probably do. But at the moment I'm just looking for balance. Now with these angle positions, a lot of people have their own views on angles, and those views are based on their reasons for it. Some people actually angle it off to the side, and they believe then it creates torque on their hand, which creates more stability. For me, what I was looking for, I was looking to create weights either side to create balance on the bow, left to right. And I was also trying to create a bow stand for me, just to make my life quicker when I'm shooting. So I don't know if I'm going to achieve that, but that's what I'm basically looking for. I've shot with V-bars, without V-bars, and I don't notice a lot of difference. Once again, if I put the pin in the center of the target and I hold steady and I do a good shot, it tends to go in the center. If I don't do a good shot, it doesn't tend to go in the center. So what I'm looking for here is for balance in the bow. So you see the bow is pointing forward, so I'm going to try adding some more weight to the back here. Win and Win produced nice little red weights, so I'm just going to add a couple of those to the back. Now the advantage of shooting bee stinger is bee stinger come with a whole variety of weights. They come in colours and they come in big chunks of weight. So I'm just going to grab some bee stinger weights. So this is a 4-ounce weight and these are 3 1-ounce weights. So if you're trying to stack on lots of weight, and lots of top compound shooters stack on massive amounts of weight, then it's really good to have bee stinger stabilizers. I'm not going to stick on lots of weight because I just don't feel like I'm strong enough. So for me, this is going to be a fairly heavy bow anyway. So still pointing forward. So for me, I'm just basically looking to add a little bit of weight and just to see how the bow shoots. And I may change to bee stinger stabilizers on the back, but for this purpose of what I'm doing here and to shoot the bow, I'm not that sort of worried. And I can use this stuff on my recurve bow anyway, so now I've added 2 weights to the back. Now obviously if I angled this way more, which I'm going to go and do now, that will move the weights up, so hopefully that will change the balance a little bit without adding any weight. So my original idea was to create a bow stand, but now I'm going to change that because I'm just not getting enough balance. So sitting like that, I really want it, so sitting like that is my ideal position. But I'm going to actually go with that at the moment. So what I need to do now, I need to fit a Peep Sight and dloop, and we're pretty close to shooting. I need to fit a scope. So dloop, now tie a dloop on, tie a dloop, goes around. Oh. I'm just going to show that tie. Now the tie on a dloop it comes through the same way it entered, so like so. That's the way it should look, and on the bottom, when you tie the bottom, it should be exactly the opposite. So when I tie the bottom one, so you'll see it comes, the ends come off on this side and the other one comes on that end. So I can spin it around like so. And that's what it should look like. Now to start off with, this is loose. So now I get a bow square. So I grab a bow square. Now what I'm looking for is this arrow to be at 90 degrees to the string to the arrow rest. And I light the arrow up just a smidge. And a smidge I rate as one little mark. So I put this on the bow string. I move it down to where the bottom of the arrow will sit on the arrow rest. See how there. Now on other PSE bows, in fact on all PSE bows, they have little lines to tell you where the center of the arrow bow is and where the arrow should run down the line. On the Xpression it doesn't have this mark. So what we're looking for is, I'm pretty comfortable that's kind of where the arrow is going to sit. So what I do is I place the bottom one on the position where the bottom of the arrow sits. So the arrow is going to sit on this little line here, and I want it up one mark, so that's where it starts. Now the arrows I'm shooting a pin knock system. So now I move the top part of the dloop down, so then my pin knock, and I shoot at the moment biter pins. So the biter pin is nicely spaced in the middle. So what I do now, I grab a set of dloop pliers. These are the arrows I shoot. I'm shooting McKinney. These are a little thin carbon arrow. Very durable. The world record was set with these arrows by a guy named Roger Hoyle in Sacramento. And I look to see the width of the pin on the dloop. And I grab my dloop pliers. And I just extend that loop, so it's putting a little bit of tension on. And I just check. I check the position there, I'm just checking how this sits. Now, my arrow rest is basically dropping away a little bit. Now with the Premier rest, it's very easy to make micro adjustments. It's very easy to adjust the tension. So I'm just going to increase the tension a little bit on that rest. And to do that, on the back here there's a little dial. Just here, all you do is you grab an Allen key and you just dial up the tension just a smidge. So I'm just going to dial up one position. That's okay, it folds away. It's just I prefer it to be sort of in position because I don't like stuff moving. So I might dial up 2 positions. Okey-doke. I've dialed up 2 positions. That seems pretty good. I am getting a little bit of a flex in the blade, but it bounces back up. So if we go like that, the arrow rest bounces back up, so I'm pretty comfortable with that. Now I'm just going to check the position of 90 degrees again, because to me the arrow looked like it was pointing downwards. It was. So I'm just hopefully going to move this down a little bit. Now when you apply a little bit of tension to the D-loop, you can still get movement through twisting the D-loop. So I've just moved it down a little bit through twisting, so rotating the D-loop on the string. I'm pretty comfortable with that. Now to get your straight down the centre line, there's no mark on a PSE anymore. What I look for, you've got little hole lines here, holes here. You make an imaginary position in the centre of the grip, and that's where the arrow should sit down through the line. So I put this arrow on the string.
Okay, see, good. Yeah, exactly.
Like so. And the string and the point of the arrow should all be in the same line as these little holes here. And that looks pretty good. So I've fitted a D-loop. I've got to fit a Peep Sight. Now to fit a Peep Sight, I need the use of a bow press. I'm just going to go and fit a D-loop. I'm going to fit a peep in the string. Now the peep I'm fitting in the string is going to be a true peep. It's nice and cheap. Size of a Peep Sight will depend on the scope you're using and how far away the scope is from your eye. So basically, the bigger the peep, the bigger the scope. So if you're shooting a big scope, you're generally lining up the Peep Sight with the center of the scope. I'm going to shoot a small peep and I'm going to shoot a small scope. So I'm looking at using the specialty Black Eagle scope. It's the most expensive scope you can buy. In 29mm, which is a very, very small scope, because I tend to like small scopes for target shooting. For 3D, I'd obviously use a bigger scope. I'm going to use quite a light, low power. So we're going to fit that, and I'm going to fit a D-loop. Fit the peep. So I'm going to fit the peep, and I'll come back and show you how we tie the peep on. Okay, so I just fitted the Peep Sight into the string, Now on shorter bows, the distance from your D-loop to your peep sight will be greater because the angle is greater. This is a longer bow, this is 40 inches. So for me, this bow is 6.5 inches from that point to that point. And on shorter bows like your decree or shorter hunting bows, so 30-inch bows, that might be 7.5 inches. So 6.5. Now I'm using BCY knock and tine thread. You can use dental flush, you can use whatever you want. This stuff burns really well, it's quite cheap. So just get a roll. Just get a piece. Cut off. Now I pull it in half, like so. I thread it through the string, and then I tie it through the loop. So basically, goes through the loop like so. And I'm going to zoom up. So I go through the loop like so. Now this I repeat, I'm just going to zoom down here. So this process, I go through the string and pull it through. I pull it tight, and I just keep going the same direction. Pull it through the string, through, pull it through, like so, pull it through, pull it through, always in the same direction, pull it through. You get this little pattern forming here. Pull it through. And that's basically it. So I get this nice little pattern forming through here. Looks like a little wave ripple. So I get that forming. I just cut. I grab a cigarette lighter, and I just burn off the end. You don't want this cigarette lighter to hit the string, so it just hits the end here. So just bring it in, just let it burn a little bit, blow it out, and then I just seal off the ends. And that's it, done. Now the advantage of this type of knock here, this is a slip knob, so I can just move this up or down if I want to move the position of the peep. Sometimes I tie this in so I can't get any movement, so I actually tie from the bottom straight through here, around the peep, and then through up here. That way I can't get any movement. But for my purposes here, I'm going to do that top and bottom. So I'm just going to do that, and then we're going to fit the scope to it. Okay, so I've just fitted the Shorelock sight scope. So I've fitted the Peep sight, and I'm just fitting the Black Eagle scope. Now the thing with the Black Eagle scope, you got to fit this rod yourself. Not a big fan of that, but the quality of these lenses is incredible. So it just fits straight through here, and then I put a washer, a lock washer, a little washer on the end, and then I bolt this in. I use one of these to lock it in place. So that's looking pretty good. Now I've got to move the scope out a little bit to the left.
Very good. A lot of stuff.
Okay. Now the lens itself, Swarovski. We're just putting the rubber O-ring in. Okay, so it looks good. Now I'm not putting a dot in yet because I'm actually going to shoot this first. So I've got a stabilizer, I've got a Peep Sight, dloop. Now the Peep Sight looks right. Now I'm not sure if it will be right until I shoot it, so I'm going to have a couple of shots first. Now before I shoot a bow, I wind the bow down. This is set on 60 pounds. I'm going to wind it down a few turns. Equal number of turns on top and bottom, so let's go 1, 2, 3 turns, and we'll do 3 turns on top. 1, 2, 3. So we got 3 turns, top and bottom, and I think I'm ready to shoot. So I've still got to put the dots in the scope, but at this stage I can basically take this around and have a shot. So we'll take this around, have a shot in the range and see what it's like. Okay. Okay, so we've set up the PSE Xpression. I've fitted a scope to it, dloop. Pretty much everything is being set up except for a dot in the center of the scope, which we'll do later, because I just want to have a shot with it. So when I'm setting this up, I'm looking for Peeper Rotation to start with. We've got to set the limb stop at the top here, which is just there. We've got to set that yet, which I haven't done. So we're just going to shoot this first. So part of the impatience, and it takes time to set up a bow. Like to get to this point, well, I had problems with that module, 75% module yesterday. That took me half an hour to work out I couldn't fit it. So I suppose if I didn't take that in, it normally takes me about an hour to set up a bow, and this one took a little bit longer because I've got to decide what parts I'm going to fit. And you know, it's the first time setting up this bow, so I'm shooting McKinney arrows, Carter release aid. So I don't even care where the first arrow goes. Like, it doesn't affect me. All I'm looking for is how the bow fits, how it feels in my hand, Peep Rotation, then we'll set up the limb stop. So just draw back, always draw back, aiming at the target. I always have an arrow in the bow when I draw it back. So I don't draw back with my fingers, because if I draw back with my fingers, I have a real chance I'll derail the bow. As I let it down, I'll twist my hand. If I do that, I'll derail it. If I don't have an arrow in the bow, basically I have a chance of triggering the release aid. So if you always have an arrow in the bow, always have a release aid. Your chances of derailing, dry firing your bow is eliminated. So we're just going to have a shot. So pull back at the target. I'm just going to let that down. Now this flexi cable guard here, this is the first time I shot this bow. This flexes. Looks quite good. The bow feels quite good to draw. It's very, very smooth, and people use that terminology a lot, but I couldn't actually feel it peaking, so I'll just take you through the draw cycle. So the grip feels comfortable. Now to start with, I'm going to say it feels better than a normal PSE grip. A lot of people complain about PSE grips. They're too narrow, the grip doesn't feel good. You'll like this grip. Whether you'll shoot better with it, that's another question. I also haven't lined up the bubble and the peep yet, so I haven't done my third axis adjustments. I'll do that later. I'm just starting off with the peep, the draw cycle, the grip. So I draw back, it's peaking, 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 and then it's felling. Quite comfortable. Peep looks about right. I'm going to take the shot. I felt a little bit of vibration, a thud with the shot. The solid, the anchor's solid. So I'm used to shooting the ME cam, and I shoot lots of different bows. That was me hitting my other arrow. Feels a bit like a single cam to draw. It's like a... So yeah, the previous PSE hybrid cam, it felt very much like a hybrid cam. It rolls over. It's a very solid draw. This feels a bit more like a single cam where the wall's very solid. Now I haven't fitted the limb stop at the top, but it seems to anchor nice, it seems to draw nice. I'm going to say all bows are good. I really like the draw cycle. I like the grip. To me it feels really comfortable back here. To me it feels pretty good. Like, I'm just going to zoom in where my arrows are. On the target, whoops. And it means nothing because there's my 3 arrows, they're all touching each other. Now Christopher Perkins, they gave him one of these to shoot when they first released the bow before anyone was allowed to shoot it. The marketing guy, I think it was Blake Shepley, or anyway, Blake, begged PSE to let Chris shoot this at a shoot, and he'd been shooting it for about 3 days, shot a tournament and won. It was a big tournament, prize money shoot. Like, to me, shoots pretty good. I'm just going to have a couple more shots. I noticed here the little thing moves, so I'm going to just check that. So I'm going to aim at a different target. Actually, I'll move my sights up first because I want to see if my sight's in the right position. So when I'm setting up my sight, at the first distance, I want the sight towards the top of the sight here. So that's one of the first things I want to check. The peep rotation is excellent. Now, the peep rotation can take like an hour to set up to get the peep right. With America's Best bowstrings, you get no peep rotation. That's what PSE use. So with America's Best, it's pretty quick to set up a peep sight. I really like the way it feels, I like the way it draws, I like the way it shoots. Actually, I haven't noticed the thud after I noticed the thud on the first shot, but I'll pay a bit more attention this time to it. It jumps forward in my hand, like, I like it. Like, I haven't set up this bow yet how I'd want it with the bubble and stuff. I haven't done 3D axis, so I've probably got another 15-20 minutes on this bow before I'm pretty comfortable to shoot it. But just shooting this bow right now, Feels pretty good, and I like it. It feels better than the Dominator, I think. Feels more solid, the wall, than the Dominator. And I had hard stops with my Dominator. I had no issue with the Dominator whatsoever. As far as the wall, it just feels. You pull over the peak, and it drops into a real valley. It's a noticeable valley. It's not wanting to creep forward. I like the grip. The grip's nice. The thumb's comfortable. So my thumb here is comfortable. Overall, I really like the bow. I'm going to shoot some scores with it, and we'll see how they sort of perform. I don't know, it just feels really good. Now, I said before the little rubber thing, you can see it's moving on me, so that's rotating, which is not very good. Now it's on so it pulls off. Now I'm going to put a little bit of glue on that to stop it rotating. But feels pretty good. So I'm happy with that. So it's PSE Xpression 2016. I've got to do more. I'm going to do a quick video to tell you what score I shoot with it for indoors. I normally shoot about 292. I'm shooting about once, twice a week. But it feels pretty good. Like the string systems are really good, and I'm comfortable with everything about the bow. These speed things here, little knocking points, PSE, the engineers put those on there at set positions to maximize the efficiency of this bow. So you'll see all PSEs have different numbers of spaces here, of weights, and there are all different amounts of weights depending on the bow. So that's the Xpression. Really like it. Like I said, I've got Dominator. I don't think I'd shoot the Dominator again. Nothing wrong with the Dominator. This just feels better to me.